Okay, let's get started. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you're joining us from. Thanks so much for joining us today for this conversation on incorporating education for sustainable development into K through 12 arts-based education. We're so happy you're here. My name is Kendra Lee Heaney. I am the project lead of the education team here at Global Schools, and I will be your moderator today. Today's session brings together a truly incredible group of educators who are not only thinking deeply about sustainability, equity, and global citizenship, but are also showing what it looks like to bring those ideals into life creatively in the classroom and learning spaces. Through the arts, students are able to imagine, question, express, and connect in ways that go beyond traditional learning. Arts-based education creates space for empathy, for critical thinking, storytelling, collaboration, and innovation. All skills that are essential for building a more sustainable and just world. Education for sustainable development is not only about environmental awareness, it's about helping young people understand their relationship to communities, to cultures, systems, and the future that they want to help shape. The arts can make these complex ideas personal, meaningful, and hopeful for students of all ages. What I'm especially excited for today is that the session is grounded in practice. Our panelists will be sharing real examples, lessons learned, challenges, and strategies for educators that they can take back to their own local contexts. Each panelist will be presenting their work, and they'll share their projects, their experiences, and then we'll move into a Q&A session at the end of our time today. Before we jump in with the first panelist, just some quick housekeeping notes. So please do keep your microphones muted while panelists are presenting, and this is going to help reduce background noise. We also really encourage you to engage through this session by adding questions for the panelists and any reflections that you have into the chat box, and we'll return to those at the end during our Q&A session. We'll be taking a group photo at the end. So if you're comfortable, we do encourage you to turn on your camera at that time. So thanks so much again for being here. I'm really looking forward to a rich and inspiring discussion. So let's begin. So first, I'm so excited to introduce our first panelist. Sarah Santien Isern, who is a part of the Global Schools family. She actually used to be part of this education team at Global Schools. Sarah is a professional educator with over 20 years of experience in international education and is currently based in Zimbabwe. She's driven by sustainability-focused mission, global citizenship, inclusive and universal education, and advocacy for innovation. Um, sorry, technical glitch. For innovation for quality education. Outside of school, she volunteers as a project officer for the content team of the Global Schools program. And in addition to her role as a school teacher, she is a passionate drama enthusiast who produces school plays designed to promote eco-friendly practices and inclusive theater. She believes drama is a powerful tool for sustainability-focused learning, helping students connect emotionally with real-world environmental and social issues. Through the arts, she encourages learners to develop creativity, empathy, collaboration, and a deeper sense of responsibility toward building a more sustainable and inclusive future. Sarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Kendra. Hello, everyone. Greetings from Zimbabwe. And in Shona, we would say Mamukase. I'm not sure now because of the time difference, but I also wanted to say Masquerase. So one of the greetings is actually good day, and the other one is more for good afternoon. So I'm really happy to be joining you in this session. Once again, my name is Sarah, and I'm a drama enthusiast, currently based in Zimbabwe, teaching at Harare International School. I'm a fifth grade teacher, so I do have a role which I also volunteer in the school, which is I produce musicals along with our music teacher. So, for starters, Can we please have the visuals, Amanda, whenever we're ready? Thank you. So I thought the perfect title for this session is that curtains up for sustainability. But I'm really going to share with you are some practical tips on how to turn it from classroom into whole school production or even taking it outside of the school. So I believe that theater is a powerful tool for ESD, Education for Sustainable Development, as we aim to help our learners to explore not only social, cultural, but also environmental issues and through various creative expressions. Through various activities such as writing poetry and acting out real life situations, students develop critical thinking, empathy, and also social awareness. I also believe that theater makes learning engaging while inspiring positive action for a more sustainable future. Next, please. So UNESCO recognizes the arts, including theater, as important tools for ESD because they encourage creativity, critical thinking, and active participation. Through performance and storytelling, theater helps learners understand sustainability issues and engage with their communities to promote positive change. Next, please. So, for today's sharing, I want to highlight the importance of how theater activities create a platform for not only creativity, but for developing global citizenship through the lens of the UN Global Goals and for sustainable solutions. Next slide, please. Next, please. So, I'm going to give you various examples of how ESD learning is transformed into stage and how stage and performance become tools for learning the significance of ESD in today's student learning. So, in the next slide, our first example is how we can create collaborative networks. So here's an example of how it started off with simple craft making in the classroom in order to support a meaningful cause, gaining firsthand experience in empathy and understanding the needs of learners with a school that we collaborated with, a school for students with hearing impairments. So it is indeed a fundraising project providing practical real world learning opportunities for the students. We teach them about the communication, social responsibility, and community service. Next slide, please. So the key points here are when you collaborate with your various networks in your community, you help the students to develop empathy through their own action. This is also showing that their learning goes beyond the classroom through community partnerships. So the background story for this experience. So this is in Kazakhstan, and I work with the earlier students, and in collaboration with the parent community, our school was in partnership with a local school for students with hearing impairments. So the first rule of thumb that we thought is we will not collect any money, we will not collect any funding. But instead, we created a short musical play where is led by the students themselves. And from in collaboration with the art teacher, the craft making, we actually had a little booth where the students sold their crafts to the people who have attended the musical show. So indeed, yes, we have accumulated some money, but rather than collecting the money right at the space, we actually had the school come over along with a company that makes dance mirror. So at that very place, we were able to pass on the funding to the people who are making the dance mirror, which in later on we donated to the school for the children with hearing impairment. So this collaboration between the school and the local community created mutual benefits, and it fostered stronger relationships and generated a lasting impact for all of the students and the community involved. Next one, please. In this example, this is in China. where I taught a group of students about a unit in business. And this is indeed students from different age levels, from middle school all the way to high school. But we also had students who have graduated already, and they call them the business partnership class. So rather than just, we did not only look at the curriculum itself, but we also looked at what practical business skills that they have already developed. So for this experience, we thought we could foster meaningful engagement with the communities, but also to the wider networks to create a shared impact on opportunities. So at this very moment, the students are still learning business language, and the best way to practice this is to put this into real life situation. So the students have gained hands-on experience applying their business skills by organizing a fashion show. Within the fashion show itself, we also looked at some eco-friendly resources. So we had some secondhand clothing. We collaborated with the secondhand clothing shop, and the students themselves had organized who will model it. They created runways. And once again, we did not charge any kind of money to watch the show, but instead we had some donation boxes, but the donation boxes did not collect money, but rather pledges. So the pledges is about the pledging that they will help reuse and recycle fabric materials, and then pass it on to the secondhand clothing shop, which in turn have gained profit, and the profit that they have received have funded a little school in a village in China for I think they call it the feeding program for the early years. Next slide, please. So, as I have said at the very beginning, I'm a drama enthusiast. I'm not a drama teacher, but I'm very passionate about musical plays. I've lived in different countries, but I've always carried that with me that whenever I come to a school, I always volunteer to run a musical show. And so on various occasions, I leverage arts and creativity to enhance not only student engagement, but also to build relationships that extend beyond the school. So, in theater performances such as musical, I believe that it not only raises awareness of important issues, but it also inspires dialogue and action. An example here on, as you can see on the visual, Annie Jr., we produced this 2 years ago, and the main purpose of this musical show is inclusion. We are a school that we practice inclusion. We have students who are coming from diverse learning needs, and majority of our performers have some learning challenges such as dyslexia. So we made sure that when we sign up with the MTI, we actually ask for resources that will allow a dyslexic student to learn the lines. And with that, we encourage the students to not only think about their challenges that will stop them from getting up on the stage and perform, but rather than thinking of their challenges, they think of their challenges as their opportunity. The next slide, please. So here is another example, which I would like to highlight that we can also build partnerships with local organizations. So this is back in Uganda, and it's another musical production, Matilda. And from the very beginning of the process, we have collaborated with Animal Shelter. And once again, we did not charge the tickets, but instead we have a box that has a pledge. And in the box, we have people pledging, I will bring a kilogram of dog food, dog treats. And so that is the type of organization that action that we produce through this musical show. And as you can see, our stage sets here are mainly made out of recycled materials, name it boxes, old curtains turned into costumes. And so this is showing you that it isn't not the profit is not always in money, but it's also through people pledging that they can support your organization, support your action. Next slide, please. Another example that I thought I would like to share today is the previous examples I've given you is quite big. It involved a lot of people at school and, like I said, beyond the school community, but it's also good to start in the classroom. So one example is how we can empower student voice and self-expression. My way of doing it is I would first look at where can I plug in poetry, where can I plug in student expression, where can I plug in theater activities in the classroom. So here is an example of one of the units that we learned this year, and it's about social issues. And so the students had looked at various issues, but doing that with local organizations around Harare. And we got quite lucky that this year we are in collaboration with Amnesty International. So we invited a musician, and his history was he was a child soldier. So from soldier, we also looked at the different community members that we have here. We have people who are volunteering in marine life, people are volunteering in inequality, specifically in sports. We have invited them all to come, and they helped with our music teacher. We helped them to develop their skills into lyric poetry. So that if we first started off looking at a specific SDG that they feel that they have a strong feeling about, and with the guidance on how to write a lyric poetry, the students have written first in poem, and we embedded later on the music elements. I do not have any visuals here, but in the end, we were able to produce a tiny like simple songs that we have played later on around the school that empowers the student voices, sending the messages that they feel strongly about in terms of social justice. Next one, please. So for this is another example of a unit that you could look into how to use student voices. We were looking at um, La Guernica, which is a painting popularized by Picasso. And it's another global issue, but particularly the social issue that the students had inquired into. So we first started off learning the history of La Guernica, and we collaborated with the drama teacher that taught the students on how to express, how to show different emotions based on the painting. And it not only that encouraged creativity, but it also prompted the students to inquire into if this had happened before, is this still happening now? So this had extended the students' thinking into how history happens and how it changes through time. And even though this is just in the classroom, it is also awakening their thinking about social justice is also one of the goals that the United Nations is trying to spread awareness about. Next slide, please. So before I leave, I'd like to share some practical tips for how to transform your three theater activities into ESD focus. My first go is start with your local context. Always look around you. Sometimes we do not need to go to look far. We just need to look around us. What are your community needs? What is already happening? Who are your relevant stakeholders? Once you found out, once you know them, then that's when you start looking into how do I get a hold of them. In personally, in my context, in an international school, our students, the families are mainly from organizations such as NGO and embassies. So we do have a simple way to find out who we can contact. But it's also working with the people who are, say, for example, in my case, the Zimbabweans. So I work with some local teachers. They are your best resources too. When you are in your context, you look at the people around you, they are your best resources. It creates opportunities for participants to contribute their own ideas and experiences. But what I really love about this is that it encourages collaboration and shared ownership between you, the students, and then the community beyond your school. So I'd like to say that let the performance unfold and give your participants the spotlight to share their voices and action. And last but not the least, on the next slide, please. I believe that SDG 17 is a great lens for theater design. It encourages theater activities that bring together diverse people, organizations, and communities to work together toward that shared goals. Through collaboration and co-creation, theater becomes a platform for learning, dialogue, and exchanging ideas. It also strengthens partnerships and inspires collective action that continues beyond the performance. I hope that you have picked something up from this sharing. And I really thank you once again for allowing me to share my theater enthusiasm. Thank you.
Kendra, I think you're on mute.
Thanks, Amanda. I was just saying, thanks so much for your presentation, Sarah. It was so evident your passion for theater throughout your presentation, and you shared some really great ideas. In particular, I'd never heard of the pledge idea as opposed to, donating money to a cause, donating an action. I really loved that, and I think I'll bring that into my own work. So, thank you so much. Our next panelist is Ben Williams Olaka. He is an educator, curriculum innovator, Kakamega Regional Machinery Ring, TOT, and Education for Sustainable Development advocate from Kenya. He is the founder of Trickle Harvesters Energies, where he promotes transformative learning through technology, robotics, artificial intelligence, creative arts, financial literacy, and sustainable education. Ben has extensive experience integrating the competency-based curriculum with solutionary and systems thinking approaches that empower learners to address real-world challenges creatively and responsibly. His work focuses on developing future-ready competencies, fostering innovation, and connecting classroom learning with community action. He is passionate about using arts education to nurture critical thinkers, problem solvers, and change makers for a sustainable future. Ben, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Sarah, Kendra. I want to comment what Madam Sarah has been speaking about. It is like we were together in our thinking, and that is what makes creative arts so unique, because we didn't sit together to write anything, but whatever Madam has presented is so vital, and it goes hand in hand with what I will also want to wish to share with other members that are in the house. So, as your introduction said, this is Ben Williams Olaka from Kenya, and I work with the rural learners. Rural. We are not in the urban centers. So from our rural setting, we are trying to bring these learners to understand the creative arts and its impact in their lives. So if you can give me my first slide, I'll be very happy. Now, as we begin, the key questions one asks himself is, how can arts education help learners become creative problem solvers for global challenges? We know that currently things are very tough, and without solution thinkers, then our world may collapse under our eye. So under this context, we'll be looking at climate change, water pollution, inequality, loss of culture, and that is another greatest area that creative art is really bringing to our attention about our culture. Then there is mental health challenges, and also another context perhaps I will be going through will be technological disruptions. So good afternoon, everyone. I am honored to join fellow educators and professionals in discussing how arts education can shape sustainable futures. In Kenya, the competence-based curriculum, CBC, gives us a strong opportunity to move beyond rote learning and nurture creativity innovation, collaboration, and problem solving through creative arts, just as Madam Sarah has been saying. So today, I'm honored to share practical approaches from the Kenyan curriculum context that integrate the following: education for sustainable development. This was inculcated into our curriculum back in 2019 when the wave of COVID hit us so much. And then I'll also be taking the approach of solutionary thinking and systems thinking. In our introduction, I think I've mentioned that, yes. We can move to the next slide. So CBC and creative arts in Kenya. CBC, or the competence-based curriculum that we are undertaking in our Kenyan setting, has vision for creative arts. It emphasizes on the learner-centered education. And this means when we are teaching our learners from kindergarten 1 to the highest level of our learning, we need to incorporate the learner-centered approach where learners do things. Competence development, creativity, and imagination. And that is the very key thing that in our learning setup, teachers must embrace it with their great enthusiasm. Practical and experimental learning. So still talking about the CBC arts in Kenya, core creative arts areas. Our curriculum is designed in this setup that we do visual arts, we do music, we do dance, we do drama, and I'm happy that Madam Sarah has elaborated much on drama. I'll be looking for her so that she shapes me up on drama things. I'm not good in drama. Then indigenous crafts, that is where we are talented. Then digital creativity. Our CBC strands in Kenya, our curriculum design is designed in a way that it has only 3 parts: creating and executing, that is part 1, then performing and displaying, and appreciation. So we can see that creative arts in Kenya, the curriculum makes learners to do something first, create and execute, then perform and display. That is showing back to the other participants or learners for critique. Then appreciation of other people's work and also reflection. So we move to what is solutionary thinking. What is this thing that we call solutionary thinking? We can see in that picture there, that learner, I gave them a test that if they can balance a cup full of water on their back with 1 leg. So this was an introduction of Aswani balance without them really realizing that they were doing Aswani balance. But I wanted them to discover a way that they can stand on 1 leg with a cup on their head. So this solutionary thinking, they came up with those ideas, and by the end, I was telling them about Swan balance in gymnastics. They were very happy. So this solutionary thinking, we are just moving from problem awareness to solution creation. You have a problem at hand. What is the solution? This is what creative arts can bring to our attention and in our learners. So solutionary thinking helps learners identify real-world problems. There are problems, but there are also real-world problems. Then investigate root causes of those problems. Then understand stakeholders affected. Who are these affected with this certain problem that we are undertaking? Then after knowing the people or the partners or the stakeholders that are being affected, then they imagine ethical and sustainable solution. Not just a solution, but sustainable, and it should be ethical, not hurting any part in the stakeholding, not the beginner, not the middle, not the end. So everybody in the ecosystem, be it the earth, be it the animal, and be it the person, they should not be hurt in their solution thinking. Then take practical action after assessing types of solutions that they will be coming up with. So in this solutionary thinking, we are not just looking at getting a solution to a problem, but we want to get a solution to a problem that will fit the earth, the animals, and the people. So example of questions when they are dealing with such in our classroom could include how can we reduce plastic waste in our school? How can we upcycle, or how can we recycle the waste that we have? As much as we are thinking of reducing, but also there is that bit of recycling and upcycling. Then question 2, perhaps, how can music create awareness about climate action? And with the music, it can talk about all the 17 SDGs. We can speak about them bit by bit until it sinks into our learners. Then how can a drama address social issues? And I don't want to speak much about drama because Sarah has done it well. So solutionary thinking moves learners from passive learning to active problem solving. Instead of simply discussing environmental and social problems, learners begin asking, what can we do about it? Arts education becomes a powerful tool for innovation, advocacy, empathy, and community transformation. Let us move to now system thinking. Now that our learners have understood how to get a solution to a given problem, and not just a solution, but a solution that doesn't hurt any part in the ecosystem, then they now think in the line of system thinking. In the system thinking, from that picture you are seeing there, those are my learners doing a pyramid, building a pyramid during a gymnastic festival or event. They were in competition, and that one was the end of the competition. After doing the activities, they ended up with that pyramid. Now, I've used that one so that the system thinking can come out clearly. The person at the bottom could be a stakeholder at a certain place. I like Madam Sarah. I will be referring to her presentation very much. She said in a drama, there is a lot of people that are involved. So that is systems thinking. Like before somebody eats bread in a house, this bread came from the farmer. And that farmer got the same seed from perhaps a seed company. There was that company that was producing like fertilizer, everything. So before the person eating the bread or the toast on the table thinks about the toast itself, then there are those other people that have been involved, and that is system thinking. So understanding interconnections. System thinking helps learners see relationships, patterns, causes and consequences, connections between society, environment, and economy. So some of the examples are listed there. Plastic waste is not only an environmental issue. Plastic, it connects to consumer behavior, how people use plastic bottles and throw them away, poverty, manufacturing, policies, health, and culture, all these under systems thinking. So system thinking teaches learners that problems are interconnected. My problem is Kendra's problem. Kendra's problem is Sarah's problem. Sarah's problem is everyone's problem. And that's why we are doing an art presentation today. System thinking teaches learners that problems are interconnected, and the activities help learners visualize systems and relationships creatively through murals, storytelling, drama, music, and collaborative projects. This develops deeper critical thinking and empathy. Now let us now move to the classroom practical approaches and see if this can happen to us. That learner that you are seeing there, I gave them an assignment to make models of musical solfa syllables. And I wanted to see them how they think, because I told them I don't want them to buy plasticines nor get clay from the rivers, because that could be also a soil erosion thing. And apart from soil erosion, there are other effects. So they told me they will make their own clay. And that clay, or whatever they called it, actually it is paper mache. So they made the paper mache from the papers and all that. So I asked them how they had come up with. The video is here. I will be sharing if time will allow, but currently let me just present on the practical approaches that we can do. You can see the girl was arranging the solfa syllables on our table. Do, re, mi, re, do. So after them organizing the do, re, mi, do, I told them now to sing them. And they could come up with the tunes that made me so happy. Now, practical classroom approaches, recycle and upcycled art. Sculptures from plastic bottles, this can be done. Bottle tops mosaics. We can collect bottle tops and do mosaics. Cartoon models. My girl here was making a model, modeling a cartoon using the same paper mache approach. Then there is eco-fashion projects. We can develop the following skills from that recycled and upcycled art. Creativity, resourcefulness. Now there's not just waste of papers, but they keep the papers well. Collaboration. If this one, there are learners who could not make the paper mache, so they went to the one who had successfully made hers, and they asked her, how did she come up with the paper mache? So she explained the same to them. So environmental responsibility also is got there. So competences that we develop in our arts classrooms will include the creativity part, citizenship, because they commune, knowing that I can get a solution from my friend. Communication still the same. Learning to learn. You would think that you know paper mache making, but you find that when you start making it, it collapses. So you go back to, or you discover another thing that you had missed a step to come up with the good paper mache. And one effective strategy is using locally available or recyclable materials. Learners transform waste into meaningful art while discussing, number one, consumption, sustainability, and environmental care. This connects directly with the CBC's practical learning approach. Number 6, we are talking about drama. Next slide. Good. Okay, that's what I've been basically be talking about, the recycle, upcycle, and for sustainability. So we can see the
Ben,
learners
sorry to interrupt. Just to ensure that we have enough for time for all of the panelists, if you can maybe have 2 more minutes to wrap up your presentation so that we can ensure that all panelists have enough time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, from the slide, we can see learners. The first learner is making up what we call mosaic and recycling material using those waste materials. We can move to the next slide. So PCI and knowledge on sustainability. This one, I was teaching learners about minimum tillage. That is a climate smart action that is now being embraced currently as a PCI pertinent and contemporary issue. And the learners were enthusiastic knowing about the seeder, how to use planters to plant seeds. Next slide. Digital art and sustainability innovations. Apart from now getting materials, local materials, learners can go digital and download or use apps or programs that are eco-friendly, make cartoons, make robots, make whatever they have that is through technology. Next. Okay, we have challenges that we face: limited resources, large class sizes, limited ESD specific materials, assessment difficulties, and the teacher preparedness. But under those challenges, there are also opportunities: community partnerships, low cost, local materials, interdisciplinary learning, student-led projects, and technology integration. Next. Okay, those are tips, and I think they are in line with what Sarah has also given unto us. So I will not go through them, all of them, but we shall be picking as we go by. Next. In conclusion, when CBC Creative Arts is combined with ESD solutionary thinking and system thinking, learners become creative, empathetic, innovative, collaborative, and solution-oriented global citizens. Closing quote: every learner has the power to imagine and create a better future. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Ben. What an incredible presentation. Sorry to rush you through there at the end, but we are looking forward to hearing from our final two panelists. I loved how you were able to connect local issues and local solutions to your work. And I love that you brought in the solutionary and systems thinking. So thank you so much for that. Next, I'm thrilled to introduce Ava Maria. Ava is an international primary school teacher. She graduated in her last cohort, cohort 7 of the Global Schools Advocates Program, and is now an alumni advocate. Her advocacy project was creating a student-led newspaper for her school on the Sustainable Development Goals, which is currently about to publish its second edition. How exciting. Ava, over to you.
All right. Hello. Today I will be talking about art inquiry and how it can help you teach sustainability and the Sustainable Development Goals. So first of all, my name is Eva Maria Wietjes, like you said, and my experience is that I have 2 bachelors in education, which means I am trained to teach art, drama, and music from ages 4 to 12, so lower and upper primary. I also followed the specialization teaching with art using inquiry. I can't even see what I wrote here because of the faces on the right now, and teams from the Museum of Modern Art. And it taught me to teach with teams, to use interactive strategies, to use museum teachings. And I'm also a Global Schools alumni advocate. So basically, I chose to use art to teach sustainability and the Sustainable Development Goals, basically because it's transdisciplinary, it works with everything, but also because of these 6 main reasons. And I would like to go over these 6 reasons in more detail in the following slides, using real-life class examples of how I've done something similar and how you can also do it. So whatever I say, don't feel like you need to do it exactly as I have. Just feel inspired to take some ideas to your classroom and do it completely in your own way. So, classroom examples. First reason art is great is because it makes abstract concepts concrete, and it can help children with conceptual understanding of big themes and hard concepts. For example, colors for emotional learning or self-regulation. What is the solar system? What is fractions? What is time? These are all like big concepts for children that we can make easier using art as a medium. And there's a lot of ways that you can put the Sustainable Development Goals already in there while you're teaching things. So, for example, you can teach climate change by drawing before and after pictures. Or you can draw 2 cities, like what is a fair city, what is an unfair city? So this is an example of how I used arts to teach more about the planets. So children here are using clay to sculpt and afterwards paints to color the sculpting. And they were really thinking like, oh, what color is my planet? Does my planet have rings or not? Is it rocky? Is it a gas planet? Does that mean I have to change the structure? And these were active conversations they were having with each other. They were inspiring themselves. And then this is something similar, like a group of 5 children would get like the shared drawing activity, and they would be asked to like draw the planets of our inner solar system. And the fun thing is that if you give a assignment like that very vaguely, then children can fill it in themselves, and you can let their creativity really decide how they're learning. So the first picture on the left upper side, it could show the first one. The children were really focused on Jupiter having like almost 80 moons. So they really spent a lot of time making sure that Jupiter was accurate. The second picture was really focused on, but how do we put them in the right order? Where does each planet go? The one on the bottom focused on measurement, like how big is the sun compared to all the other planets? Like what are their sizes? And the one in the right is really cool because they were sorting them into gas and rocky planets. So on one side is the gas planets, and on one side is the rocky planets, and the sun kind of divides them. And I think this is just a really cool way that they're showing things we've learned in class through art without any instruction, just by working together. Okay, so second point, art can help with memory and it can support different learning styles. So art helps us remember things, and it can help us when we don't necessarily have other ways to show what we're thinking. So, for example, in our school, as an international school, we occasionally have a child joining the classroom that cannot speak the language. So, how do you involve them into the learning? Well, art. And also brainstorming, like how do we start initial ideas before we start a project, like even like a writing or a math project, like how do we get ideas on paper? And then the sustainable development version of this could be something like sculpting with recycled materials and upcycling to learn about recycling without really having to use the words for it. Also designing posters for something you're actively learning about, or drama, dancing, getting some movements. Like there are so many learning styles that aren't necessarily reading and writing. There's a lot of kinetic learning that is great, that with clay, for example. So this is art as a brainstorm. And we had a really difficult conceptual concept. What is our responsibility as a community? So as a class or a community, how are we responsible to each other? And then how are we responsible to the world as a whole? So you can see some children prefer as their learning style to write sentences down, and some prefer to draw pictures. And both should be okay, because we're not assessing are they able to write, we're assessing can they understand this concept. And that's why by putting small art activities into any lesson, you can make it more accessible. This was a really cool thing that my co-teacher did. It's upcycling. So that means you take something old and you make something new with it. So all the children brought in trash. And the cool thing is that they made a robot from it. So children were learning like, okay, so by recycling, I can make new things, I can create. And it was really great for them to get their hands onto something. So art can connect to real world thinking. And this is something that I think is amazing because it goes from beyond this is for the world into this is for me. So we have a 6-week unit in grade 2 on children's rights and human rights. And I love using art for this because it goes from learning about what human rights are to, but what about me? And other SDGs would be like designing an awareness poster for any SDG. You can make this work. So on the left here, there's a girl drawing her favorite human right and a self-portrait. So these are all self-portraits. And she was drawing my favorite human right is the right to have a name. And with this, she started to really think about not knowing like, oh, I have the right to have a name, but like, but what would happen in my life if I didn't have one? And why does this make me happy to have my name? Like, what does this mean to my identity? And to the right, there is a little boy writing down in his favorite right is the right to be able to read. I'm not sure if it counts as an official human rights or children's rights, but it's part of the right to education, I think. So he had a point. And I can show you like deeper thinking. He's taking apart, we have the right to go to school, and taking from that, oh, but I'm learning to read in school. I like reading. I have the right to read. And it shows that they're really taking ownership of something as big as human rights and processing it. This is also discovering nature around us. It's really cool. So the world around us can be the nature in our school, in our district, in our country. So what the children here were doing was actually math. So we were doing symmetry. So you can see here on the left here, some thought that symmetry could be like, oh, you make the same border and then you draw a picture in between. Some are thinking, oh, what is the symmetry in this leaf if I draw both sides? And on the right picture here, you can see this child made symmetry by making a perfect circle of grass, putting it together. So art can improve additional skills like critical thinking and problem solving. So for example, we always have the problem when we have our human rights unit that is, but how will the other children in our school know what their rights are? So that means that there's now a problem and art can solve it. Another idea would be something that's really cool is designing an eco-friendly city for the future using a lot of recycled materials, for example. So this is how we solved our problem of children's rights. The children all made posters to be able to put across the school so that children who didn't know about children's rights could read them and learn. And you can see the different styles in which they would make a creative poster. Some would put a lot of information on there, and some would really focus on like just big words in bold, so it would be easier to read. And it means that afterwards we can have a discussion on like what is communication in posters and how can you communicate your meaning through art. Follow up on that could be lap books. So lap books are the most popular thing to ever happen to my classroom. It's when you take an A3 piece of paper and you fold two halves into the middle so you can open it like a book and it becomes a lap book because you can have it on your lap and open it. This one was lap books on migration. So the students interviewed someone and put their migration story into a physical book. And this is a really cool art activity because they have to think, how do I present my information? So there could be like a wheel that shows what the answer is, or there could be flaps or like an envelope you can open and something can come out. So this really, it forces them to think about how to organize the information, how to process the knowledge they have onto like written format. And also they have to think of their audience. What will make their audience read their lap book? So it's like all these multiple skills being done at the same time. And like they think it's art and fun and crafts, but honestly, it's more English. So art can also help children express themselves, which I'm sure that's what a lot of people jump to as their first point. So how are we feeling inside? And how is our community feeling? An idea could be for you to look at your community, look at what your class feels and what is important to them. For example, this year, for everyone, I'm sure it's K-pop Demon Hunters. How can that help them express themselves? Who knows? So this is for me one of the favorite things I do. Every month we do a self-portrait, and in this one we did self-portraits about emotions because we learned about the colors of emotions. And a girl on the left shows how she's happy, and the boy on the right shows how he's excited. But then the one in the middle makes me stop and think because it's a girl showing how she's smiling, and then all the emotions she can feel inside when she's smiling. So some would call it masking, some would call it just being nervous and smiling and being shy. We don't really know what's behind it. But the cool thing is art can give you, as the teacher, kind of like a pin of like, oh, I need to look into what this is. And an additional thing is this is lower primary, the ones that made these pictures. Lower primary students don't tend to be able to express themselves eloquently, emotionally, how they're feeling all the time because they're what? They're 5 to 7, right? So it's really cool that through art they can. Then this is also something we do with emotions. Basically, I have 4 tables and 4 groups, and they all start on drawing how they feel. So one is this, the blue, one is the green, one is the red, one is the yellow. So happy, sad, angry, excited. And we rotate. So they all have 5 minutes to 10 minutes to draw on this poster, and then they rotate to the other poster. So every child contributes to the whole poster. And this is really cool because then you see what makes our class sad, what makes our class angry, what makes us excited, what makes us happy. And they can make that connection with each other. So what makes us happy currently is football. What makes us angry is broccoli and Minecraft monsters that explode. What makes us sad is the thought of our mom dying. Like, it's very dramatic because they're children, but it's also very realistic. It's their interpretation of what's happening around them. And then we give them little clips with their name on it, and they can put that onto how they're feeling every day, or like when they change their emotions, and they can really make a connection and start to reflect how they're feeling. There's also street art, which I love to do. So I would write a sentence or a question on a whiteboard and just leave it at the school for anyone to write on. And we have principled kids, so it works. But anyone can work on it, so it's a living art piece. And then what happens is at the end of the day, more and more is added, and people start coming back and they start reading and they're discussing. And it's this beautiful graffiti piece at the end because it is a style of art. So the one on the left was write your Children's Day message. And some children interpreted it as, well, I want more time to play, please. And some said, oh, we're all special because children. So it's different interpretations all shared together on what Children's Day is, which is great because it's a UN day. On the right, the question was, what can we do to make the world a better place for the children? And then you had some introspective ones and some not so introspective ones. So help people in need versus something like stop militaristic growth versus something like we want more Miss Evas. So it can really be anything they want to read or write. Do a backflip. I don't know why that was almost on there, but it makes them happy. So this is really cool. And one of my favorite was be their best friend. Then there's also art and fine motor skills. So the great thing about art and fine motor skills is that it goes hand in hand. They're best friends, especially with the upcoming generation. We all know that children have, in a pattern, in a group, less fine motor skills than they used to have at certain ages. So having more time in the day to practice those is perfectly relatable for them. So examples for what trains fine motor skills is things like cutting with scissors or molding with clay, ripping paper. And ideas for that is just like projects, like build an animal habitat with cardboard, clay, paper mache, whatever. But you're learning about animals, you're learning what a habitat is, but you're also actively building something. So you're using that fine pincer grip. And my favorite way to do that, I love this one, is having a box all of the year that is for paper scraps. So people put in their scraps of paper, which are left, and they rip them into little pieces at the end of the year to make artwork. So children know all the year that, oh, my favorite that's left goes in the box. We're not throwing it away yet. And then at the end of the year, we do a big project with them. It makes recycling tangible. So this is a group of students that made the Van Gogh sunflowers. Then we have the dancing cows, or we have self-portraits. It really depends on what colors you have left. And like this is not even only ripping, this is also curling. Like there's different techniques you can do with them. So yeah, I have some final advice left if you want to read it. Otherwise, I am sure we can also go to the next one. But yeah, I think the big things is to introduce materials and techniques throughout the year slowly. You start with just pencils and some activities and you introduce more and more. And you have certain places in the class where the materials are. Like we always have the white paper under Mr. Penguin. We always have like the scrap paper in this box. Because then when children do art, they can start doing their own mediums. They can think, oh, we all have to draw a flower. Maybe I'm using crayons this time. And another child may say, oh, but I'm going to use painting. So they get more ownership over doing art. Also, just set clear boundaries. Like in my class, we're not allowed to say anything negative about someone else's artwork because someone worked on it. We only say positive things. And we really reinforce that strongly so that children don't feel discouraged to try. And also, gallery walks are your friends. Get children to walk around and look at each other's artwork. Let them inspire each other. And if someone discovers an art technique, because little children so often discover something for the first time, let them teach each other how to do it. Let them have some moment in front of the class to show them. And you're not always teaching the same thing. Like, I think when we have to grade art as a subject, often teachers go like, oh, but it's scribbles, it's outside of the lines. Be very clear in the children what you expect from them. Yeah. If you're teaching cubism, it doesn't matter if they're scrabbling out the lines because that's not what you're teaching. Yeah. So styles don't need to be followed exactly. Methods don't need to be followed exactly, as long as they're exposed to them and can have their creative choice. You can also show some famous art pieces and works, but never explain why they're famous. Let students look at it for 1 to 5 minutes and let them see, oh, I've noticed this. Oh, I like this afterwards. And just don't forget the importance of letting them be creative. You can follow set lesson structure, but let them have creativity within that structure. So I think that's the end of mine.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Ava. I loved looking at all the pictures of the students' work. That was truly incredible and some really great tips and tricks there at the end. So thank you so much for your presentation. Last but not least, we have Hashir Hamid Bukhari is a creative educator, playwright, and curriculum consultant working with theater, education, and social impact. Having studied at the Berklee College of Music and Beacon House National University, he is committed to making theater arts accessible as both a pedagogical tool and an expressive form, working through curriculum development, teacher training, and context-based play script writing that reflects the realities of the student it serves. His work with underprivileged schools in Pakistan, including the Zero Waste trilingual production Galaxy, demonstrates his belief that transformative creative experiences belong to every child, regardless of circumstance. Ashir, over to you.
Thank you, Kendra, for the introduction. My presentation is going to be about how we can integrate Sustainable Development Goals into theater productions. And for this presentation, I'm going to be highlighting one sole production of theater that I did with the Humera Riaz Schools, a school on the outskirts of Lahore for the underprivileged. The children pay around 300 rupees, which is roughly $1 American per month. And this was not only their first annual play, but also the first time they got to see a stage. And this is about how theater is not merely a pedagogical tool. You know, we not only develop inter or intrapersonal skills from theater, but when we take production into account, we can include a lot of sustainable development goals. For example, goal number 5, gender equality, rather than just learning about the abstract or gender equality as a concept, we can live it out in rehearsals, in the script, in the performance. So I'm going to be breaking this production into 4 different parts. So we started off with the writing. I was briefed by the school to write something that included the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And we started off with that. I came up with a skeletal system of the play related to what the students are studying at that given moment in time. And we included the students' feedback, how to make it more relatable to them, how to make it more relevant. And the next one was practice and learning. Of course, that includes rehearsals. Third aspect was costume and set design. And the final one was fundraising and production. So we chose to write our own play because it was difficult to find something that was absolutely 100% context specific and relevant to the student body. And we consulted students. We came up with ideas like space exploration and space travel, so that the theater production itself, so that this play itself can be a part of the curricula of the school that they're learning at that moment in time. Another aspect in the writing itself was multilingualism. So in Pakistan, we do a lot of code switching from Urdu to English to Punjabi and all the way back around. And funnily enough, each language that we choose, Urdu, English, Punjabi, not only is used to convey a very specific tone, but also an entirely different personality. So if we want to be serious, we may speak in Urdu. If we want to be humorous or say something sarcastic, we might choose Punjabi. So this play was not one language long. The original play was written in 40% English and 60% Urdu. But then, as the rehearsals went on, the students started almost in the beginning, almost in a mocking sort of way. They started doing it in Punjabi. And I came up with the idea of doing an entire production, another show in entirely Punjabi. So that was something really beautiful that the students themselves came up with. I should probably tell you what the play was about. it's basically about a group of astronauts who are fed up of Earth, who do not like the environment and danger on Earth, and they decide to venture off, find a new planet, and colonize it. What happens there, as you can all guess, is a comedy of errors, and because they are not at all equipped to handle an entirely new ecosystem. By the way, I must mention that I have pictures of the students in the presentation, and I have consent from the school, the children shown, their families, the whole 9 yards. So the second aspect is practice and learning. So we adopted the pedagogical sequence of experience, reflect, and extend. Much like life, we experienced first and then reflected upon the lessons learned from it and extended upon it. For example, there's one character in the play. His name is Fateh. He is an ambitious businessman eager to establish commerce on this new planet. He's a capitalist. So the character actor of Fateh, I asked him, why do you think his motivations are as such? Why does he always think about money? Why does he want to get richer? At first, the student's response was that because he's poor, makes sense, it's logical. And I never give him the right answer in the beginning. He was like, because he's poor, he wants to make money. That makes sense on the surface level. But as we reflected deeper upon it, Fateh, the character actor of Fateh himself, he realized that he is actually already rich on Earth. He just wants to get richer, you know. I would like to ask for permission if I can show the impact report, which is a video.
Sure, go ahead.
कॉन्फिडेंस हो गया क्योंकि पहले हमें इतना ज्यादा कॉन्फिडेंस नहीं था कि हम सामने बोल सकते हैं, लेकिन अब हमें इतना कॉन्फिडेंस है कि कोई भी है हम इसका ले सकते हैं, क्या कर सकते हैं। कि मैं भी बड़ा होकर एक्टिंग करूं। I don't understand.
So that was the impact report. And before we began even the auditions, we came up with educational posters that we put up around the school that gave them advice on acting and actually taught them what theater and drama really is. And this made the students much more acquainted, and many of them delivered excellent auditions because of this. So the costumes and set design, a lot of our props were mostly paper mache, and many of them were found objects that we found in among families, among houses. For example, a phone that the lead character of the play, who's the leader of the space mission, uses, is an old Sony Ericsson, flip phone. So there was nothing really bought from stores to use in the play. And the costumes were sourced from scraps in a nearby textile factory. And for them, it was waste, but we used it to build the costumes and also the backdrops, that all sorts of props and material you can see over here. There's a cow on the background over here, which is a very whimsical thing to do. But the kids, all the students were a part of building all of these material that we use in the play. The helmets are made from paper mache and now are displayed proudly in the school as a nostalgic, artifact of the first play that they ever did. So lastly, the fundraising and production. So Humaira School is run by Maliha Amin and the principal by the very competent Ghazala Raza, is an NGO-based school, and everything is donor funded. So we conducted donation drives, contacted independent donors, and we came up with tier lists for the donors. So, for example, if somebody donated a certain amount of money, they certainly got something back as well. So we made sure that everyone was getting something back in return. And in conclusion, I just had this thought while listening to these mind-blowing presentations by all these competent people before me, that how long it takes. We've at some point probably wondered, how long it takes to prep and prepare a meal and just moments to consume it. So this entire production took 6 months, 6 to 7 months of our time, which was all culminated into 1 hour of performance. And in the end, we thanked everyone for dining with us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Hashir. That was incredible. Extremely blown away with the storyline, with the props you created. Very impressive. I'm just incredibly blown away by all of the panelists right now. You guys have all shared really incredible, really practical ideas on how to incorporate ESD into arts education. We've had discussion on drama. We've had discussion on visual arts. Just the creativity from all four of you is so amazing, so impressive. I'm blown away. We do have about 15 minutes, so let's take some question and answers for our panelists. If you have any questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat, or you can raise your hand. We will start off. We have one question here. Sorry, everyone. So perhaps Sarah and Hashir can answer this. I would like to ask when rehearsals take place. Do you have a theatrical department or combine it in your lesson time? So maybe Sarah, if you want to start, and then Hashir, if you want to follow.
Sure. We do have a theater department, but for someone like me who works in elementary, our theater department is actually just music. So to answer your question, yes, we do have rehearsals time outside of curricular hours, but what we call co-curricular activities. So that usually takes place after the lesson times. However, for a musical production specifically, the music part of it will be taken care of the music teacher. And I mainly do the choreography and also the producing of the show. So we would have teacher volunteers and sometimes parent volunteer. And like I have shared from the beginning, sometimes you just need to look at your context. So we like for our current production, we also work with a local theater. So we hired, not really hired, it's volunteer. So we have a volunteer director from a local theater here in Harare who's been helping us mostly consulting with how to direct the stage.
Perfect. Thanks, Sarah. Hashir, do you want to join in?
Hello,
Hashir, do you want to answer the questions?
hello.
Hi. You're on mute, Hashir.
Yeah, my name is Thomas Sylvester
Oh, Thomas, can
Bertoli
you
from
can you hold
Sierra
on one
Leone.
moment? Sorry, we're just addressing the one question, and then I'm happy to turn it over to you. Hashir, do you want to
Yeah,
address the
I'm
question?
sorry. Could you please repeat the question? I stepped
Oh,
away from the computer for a bit.
No problem. So the question was,
all right, okay.
they would like to know when rehearsals took place. Do you have a theatrical department or combined it with lesson time? So how did you, when did you incorporate this 6 months of preparation for the?
Yeah, this is a very good question and also very relevant because we practice honestly wherever we could and not during class times preferably, and it was usually on the weekends. The school is very nearby the students' residences, um, so we practiced in the ground, in empty classrooms, and in all sorts of places. We took the students to see a stage for the first time, uh, to Lahore, from the village to Lahore, and we got permission to do a quick rehearsal over there as well, so that the students got acquainted with performing, the feeling of being higher up on a stage and looking down at seats. So that's how we rehearsed.
Perfect. Thanks so much. Thomas, I'll turn it over to you now if you want to ask your question.
Yeah,
Thomas?
thank you very much for my name is Thomas Sylvester Bertoli. I'm working with um youth empowerment development organization here in Sierra Leone, and it's my pleasure to meet with you here. And I'm very much happy that you guys are working on to see that climate change is really being an impact to some of our schools. That is a very good one. And for us here in Sierra Leone, I have visited so many schools during our implementations. Like we have seen how these schools, they are very lack in waste management. And this is very much important because for the safety of our children, you know, we have to make sure that our girls and boys are being in a safe place environment of learning, which can build their confidence. And it's a very good initiative. So my question is, since we as an organization here in Sierra Leone, we have tried to combat on different projects of which we have succeed to see how youth are improving. 80% of them today, they have been independent, and some are still trying. We are much more focused on youth development, women, children, supporting them with productive educational projects and programs. So I don't know if this short opportunity will be granted for us here in Sierra Leone, so we can work as a partner to see that we take it to the global level, to see how we all can join together, to see how we can combat waste management for our children and boys and girls to be in a safety environment. So I don't know if we will be as a partner with you guys. So that is my question. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. Perhaps one of my colleagues can put our advocate's email address in the chat. And if you want to put it in there, we can follow up. I feel like this is not a question for panelists per se, but if you send us an email, then we can definitely follow up with you. Angela, your hand is raised. Please go ahead.
Yes, hello. My hand is raised with a cast. So, yeah, how inspiring. I need to apologize because I could join only 20 minutes after it started, so I probably missed a couple of panelists. But my question is about how, if you do, how do you make these amazing experiences for students become a school culture? Because many times I experience it myself. Uh, we plan for amazing activities like this using art for sustainability and for example, for English literacy development and so on. But then once the teacher is gone, that legacy is gone too. So I was passing the ball to you, how you plan or how you do it in your school environment to make it become a school culture.
Amazing. Eva, do you want to start off with this one since you weren't in the providing an answer for the former one, if you feel
Of
comfortable?
course, no problem. So what we do in our communities, whenever someone in the departments, because we have kindergarten, primary, and high school, wants to start something, we discuss it with colleagues and we try to find a way that it goes beyond the life of just one teacher. Because I agree with what you said, sometimes that happens, that you have a really cool project and then it goes away. So the way we're trying to make SDGs like a project that happens over a longer amount of time is we created a group of about like 5 or 6 teachers a year that will then like be in charge of making sure the sustainable development goals are visible in our school. And that's like a rotating thing, like we sign up for a year. And on the lobby, we have a big board. There's like the upcoming UN events with a UN event every month and highlights on sustainable development goals or things that are happening in the area. And then things like the graffiti art, like those things are for the whole school to there, just on a visible place. So where the posters children make, we put them on a visible place and the children start talking about it, they know it. Like our librarian, for example, who also did the advocacy, did this amazing thing in the library where we have a board which shows how books can be connected to sustainable development goals, and we put it visibly there. Now, when it's visibly there, what happens is that children notice it more, so they talk about it more automatically, but then also fellow teachers know and they're encouraged to look at it. And also by having the thing like it's your project for a year, but then someone else can join in, it gives some teachers like the relief of like, oh, I don't have to like be the one to carry this the entire time. So you can be like, okay, I'm doing this for a year, I might do another, or like I did this for a year, someone else can now take part. So for our school, that's how it worked. I would really just try to see if your colleagues, is this something that our school thinks is important? What we did with global advocacies is we had like a pledge the school could sign, but you can also do it more informally, like make sure like the team knows, okay, I want to do this. Can I get some teachers on board? Will be in charge of this, and then someone else might take over, and then have it like a rotation based thing.
Amazing. Thanks, Eva. Do any of the other panelists want to quickly add anything if it differs than what Eva mentioned?
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
well, I have a plan for next year. My plan, I think she mentioned right now displaying visuals to be displayed for the students. We need it to be displayed and to have one language. And in order to have one language and to be called a culture in the school, I integrated this in the lesson plan. I created some assessment tools to make sure that the students are doing something and teachers are doing something, or each class is doing something. So when it is in the lesson plan, when we have assessment tools to measure this, and some of the measurement tools is in the portfolio of the students, I make sure that when I leave, it is there already, because when it is an assessment tool and it's there in the lesson plan, then it is a part of the policy of the school.
Thanks, Engi. Hashir,
Thank you.
I saw you also wanted to answer this question.
Yeah.
So if you can.
So one important way to include, for example, the theater production as part of the school culture is to include it make it a part of the curriculum. with targets and assessments and career and academic pathways. Also, it helps to do your rehearsals in very public places in the school so that everybody can see and want to join. And there's a hustle and bustle in the environment. There's something going on at school. And I think regularity also counts. That this part of the year is going to be the annual playtime, and a lot of students anticipate that and look forward to that. And that's how cultures are built, repetition.
Thanks for sharing. We had one question coming in from the chat, which was, do you have feedback sessions with the students after the play? And maybe we can open it up to visual arts as well, so that Ben and Ava can also jump in. So do you have any feedback sessions with students after an artistic project? And more specific for Hashir and Sarah, do they only perform or also take part in generating ideas for the play? So I will open it up to anyone who wants to share.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to answer this question. Feedback is a very important process, especially not only for performances, I think for any type of learning. So yeah, we do have that as part of our process. And it also leads into inviting other students to try it out, say for the following year. It's basically modeling too. So to clarify that, it's a very important process of musical production performances. Also for the generating of ideas, it's a really good part of the culture to involve the students. Like Hashir's example, they write their plays. We're not there yet. Ambitiously, we will try, but in our productions are mainly embedded in our curriculum. So every year, even before the year starts, we already know the musical production that is going to be performed for the following year, and the students are highly involved in that. So, for example, one of the examples I gave is like the set design. The students actually take over the set design, and also makeup, costumes. So they are part of the process, not just generating ideas, but putting the ideas into action.
Thanks, Sarah. Let's go to Ben. I see your hand raised. Go ahead, Ben.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you, Madam Kendra. I want to reiterate about the teacher who leaves the station after introducing the concept to the students. By the end of the year, the teacher leaves. So in our setting in Kenya, what we have done is that integrating of these SDGs and ESD is integrated in all the learning areas. So when the teacher comes on board, he is oriented in those areas that needs ESDs. So the teacher in charge in that school, for example, I'm the one in charge of the ESDs and the SDGs and Global Schools Program. I will orientate the teachers about them so that even if I leave the school, the other teachers know about it and they can continue with the ESD education rather than starting and breaking on the way. Thank you. That was my injection.
Thanks, Ben. We'll have Ava, I see your hand is also raised, so you can address or provide your answer. Then we'll have Isabella with the last question. So Ava, go ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. All right. So feedback maybe what I really like doing with art is we have a moment at the start of an art lesson where we look at art, we think about it, and then they do their own thing. And while I walk around, I give a lot of verbal feedback. Like I try to, within the hour that we do art, walk around and give every child at least one compliment of, oh, you're doing this right, or you're doing that right. But then when the art lesson ends, what's good when all the projects are done is that children get a chance to show their work themselves, either by doing a gallery walk or by showing their work, and then let them tell each other what's nice about it. And you can always jump in and say like, oh, this is a great example of this, or oh, that's a great strategy of that. But I think that the most powerful thing is to also let them give feedback to each other, because they learn the skill of like what to look for, and also how to recognize that within their own work and the work of their friends.
Amazing. Thank you. Isabella with the last question. Go ahead.
All right. So, hi, I'm Isabella from Ghana. It's good to be here. So, joining this platform, it was recommended by an alumni. She's Grace Ann Abebu, and of the Global School. Yeah. And today, joining this made me realize that there's a lot I've been doing actually that are in line with the SDGs, but I didn't really know that I was doing that right in line with the SDGs. I partnered with Grace Ann on a lot of projects. I am in the rural community, so I share so much in what our colleague from Kenya is saying. I do the upcycling, I do the reuse of probably shoes and clothes and all that, and it resonates a lot with me. And so when she saw the idea of the Global School with me, one thing that kept me from applying to join the Global School was the fact that getting my whole school to adapt to this concept, getting my whole school to integrate the SDG into our curriculum, it was a great challenge for me. I started with the idea that we have water being sold, and these plastic sachets are produced, and it litters the whole school. So I had to come up with an idea where I hung bags in every class where students are supposed to gather all the plastics, which is more like segregation of waste, and they are supposed to drop in their plastic waste in one bag, paper waste in the other, and then they sort of, the class with the highest would get a reward from me. But you realize that getting other teachers to come on board becomes difficult. In terms of creative art, there are some art topics that we do. We are supposed to look at artists, visual artists in Africa, and how their works resonate with us in our communities. And so we could get an artist like, I've forgotten, but there's this artist that his works resonate so much, and then he used bottle tops. He's from Nigeria. He uses bottle tops. And so I encourage the students, we could create our own artworks. I'll try and tag you on LinkedIn. His art resonates with us. And so they brought bottle tops, and then we created a replica of his artwork, which ours was inspired by his. You realize that these things are beautiful. We do like this modeling festivals, traditional outfits and all that. But to get other teachers to come on board, it becomes so difficult. And sometimes it gets you to slow down because, yes, it's a rural area, and then other teachers feel there's so much already to be done. Why would you want us to do this and do that? And so it keeps some of us from bringing everybody. It becomes difficult on how to get everybody on board. So I'd be grateful if you could help with, panelists could help with the best way out, because most of these things that I do, it ends up being either when it's the other teachers come on board, only when it's like a district festival, that is where you will get them, but not in terms of our school. Meanwhile, we actually have those topics in our curriculum that we are supposed to teach, but to get them to come on board, let's do it. It becomes very difficult. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Isabella. Maybe we can have the three panelists who've been part of the Global Schools Advocates program share their experience. We are over time, so I would say please keep your answers to 30 seconds maximum, and we'll go order of my screen. So Ava, if you want to quickly share how you got whole school buy-in during your advocacy tenure.
Okay, I think the main thing is what we did is we had all the teachers together in a meeting, just one, and said, okay, look at the curriculum, look at everything you're already doing, and connect that to an SDG. So for every year group, we went around and we placed sticky notes of what SDG we thought that was. Then we could see like, oh, we're already teaching it, like you said. So if you're already teaching it, just make sure those connections are clear. And then what you can do is you convince people like, if we have SDGs visible, our school will thrive. It will be good for us. And we're already doing it. It's just naming it actively in the class. It's very little change. So
Perfect. Thanks, Ava. Ben, do you want to share how you got whole school buy-in during your Global Schools Advocates tenure?
Okay, at my end, what I usually do with the teachers is we give rewards at the end of the term according to how somebody has integrated the SDGs into his or her teaching. That's what we normally do. So we call the best SDG integrator. That's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. And last but not least, Sarah, do you want to share how you did it at your school?
Yeah, sure. I think it's very important to understand why there's also hesitation from the staff. A very good example is sometimes teachers do feel overwhelmed and they also feel like we are just reinventing the wheel. So just taking the words that you have already shared, it is already there. It's just a matter of making them visible. So it's very important to acknowledge what the teachers are already doing and connect, link that, make that relevant connection that the SDGs are that you are indeed covering what the SDGs are.
Thanks, Sarah, so much. For anyone on the call or joining us today that has not gone through the Global Schools Advocates program, we will be having one more cohort during 2026, and we'll be announcing timelines of that shortly. So stay tuned on our social media. We do provide training and so many resources on how to promote whole school buy-in and get fellow teachers, school leadership, and students as strong advocates as well. So please stay tuned and apply for the program if you have not already done so. Thank you all so much for staying on for so long. Before we jump off, we do like to have a bit of a tradition here at Global Schools in our PD sessions where we like to take a photo of everyone. So can I ask that everyone turn on your cameras if you feel comfortable doing so? And can I ask maybe my colleague Amanda, if you're still on the call, do you mind doing the photo?
Yes, I can take it. I unfortunately can't turn on my camera, but I will be the photographer. So let me just do this really quick. So I'll take, there's 3 screens here. So let me just take the first screen really quick. All right, thank you. And then I'll go to the second screen. And the third screen. All right, thank you everyone for the photo.
Thanks, everyone. We will be circulating the recording via email, and it will be available on the Global Schools YouTube page. Thanks so much for your time, and we'll see you at the next professional development session.